build it, he will.
It's the Skinny on Sports Podcast with Aaron Cowk.
I throw balls far. You want good words? Data language.
Talk real sports with a real man.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
And now, here's the be-all, end-all, know-it-all of high school, college, and pro sports. Aaron Skinny Cowk with the Skinny on Sports.
We're talking about practice, man. I'm the MVP.
Good Paul Jones Truck Tuesday out there in Western Oklahoma. Welcome to the Skinny on Sports right here on 98.1 FM, the Sports Animal. Glad to have you along for the next hour. We will have college football. We'll have a look at high school football, high school fast pitch, and fall baseball. Big win for the Elkcats yesterday. Big win. We've got districts starting in the smaller classes. Actually, regional assignments for 2A have been announced, so we go all through that as well. And then we'll start with the NFL right off the top. 225-9698 is the phone or the text line. 225-9698. Give us a call, shoot us a text. We can talk about any of those things or whatever else might be on your mind. Feel free to chime in at 225-9698. If you're going to be outside the listening area one of these days, you can stay in touch with us with the app or on kadsam.com. The app has it all. It's got radio. It's got the Penny News. Brand new edition. That Penny News will hit the website at midnight tonight. Check it out at thepennynews.com. Big Elk and Paragon TV. Big Elk off this week. Paragon TV will have Merritt and also Hollis. Hollis plays Cyril. Merritt opens district play with Moreland. So you can check that out. I actually think that's a Thursday game for Merritt, at least according to the schedule on the OSSA
Where's that
rankings
at?
page.
Just curious.
Here.
It's here?
It's here.
Good game to attend.
Absolutely. And then also, Skinny on Sports Podcast. If you missed the show entirely, you can check us out wherever you view or listen to podcasts. How are you today, Jared?
I'm good. How are you?
Did it rain?
Not well. It was sprinkling when I left the house, and when I drove in, I saw more puddles this way. So, I guess it rained.
Yeah, Merritt is Thursday. It's homecoming.
Oh, very cool.
It's what it said on the schedule, but sometimes you never know if maybe a date was just misentered. But there you go, officially.
Well, it's Thursday, darn it. So Jared would know this. I got softball. He's part of the 8U crowd.
Oh.
I'm not sure what times are, though. Maybe I can get to halftime. Oh. Couldn't get the refs for Friday. So, we're seeing a lot of that,
Oh, yeah.
unfortunately.
No doubt about it.
Shortage of refs, so you kind of have to make do and change your times for their schedule so you could have refs.
I wish I could. There is comedic gold on one of my group texts, so I'm not going to be here Thursday or Friday.
Okay.
Annual golf outing.
Ah.
And so the week of, the comedy gets ramped up with the trash talk.
I'm not sure you can bring a lot of that to air.
Can't. Quite honestly, I can't. And it's funny because, there's certain people that will try to needle you.
Oh,
You
yeah.
expect it out of certain people. There's others that this week brings out a totally different. It's like their alter ego, and those are even the more funny ones. The ones you don't expect to be talking trash.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's pretty funny.
Like, whoa.
Yeah, easy there.
From the top row.
Yeah. It's awful early in the week to bring that one out. That's the one you needed like Saturday afternoon when we win.
Yeah, just wait till Saturday afternoon.
Oh, heavens. All right.
good.
Week 2 NFL is in the books. Last night, the doubleheader on Monday Night Football with New Orleans defeating Carolina, the Steelers beating the Browns. I've got it's interesting that the Steelers are the colors they are.
Yeah?
Because they have morphed into a college team that has their exact same colors.
I think I know who you're talking
Iowa.
about. Iowa.
They played just like Iowa. Last night, the defense outscored the offense.
Yeah, it
14-12.
That's sure. That's good. That's a good one.
You think the Cleveland fans are pretty excited about paying Deshaun Watson $235 million guaranteed?
I think at the back of their mind they knew at the end of the day Browns are going to Brown. Right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
the jokes were flowing.
Baker's 2-0 in Tampa Bay.
That's what the jokes were flowing last night on the Twitter with, oh yeah, we're paying this guy $235 million guaranteed to lose a game Baker Mayfield would have won.
Is what it is.
It was ugly.
That's what the Browns do best, though, right?
It was ugly. The Nick Chubb injury.
Oh man, it
Hey,
sucks.
listen, kudos to the broadcast crew, apparently, for not re-showing it. They never replayed the injury.
Well, good. I didn't see it. I don't care to look it up.
No, I didn't either. I don't want to see that stuff. Just makes me sick, literally, to my stomach. So I don't want to see. I don't either. But kudos to them. You know, a lot of times, sometimes they play it and play it and play it, and it was like the producer saw it before it went to air, and you could hear. He whispered into Joe Buck's ear, and Joe Buck says, "Yeah, apparently that's not something we need to show." And then you could hear Troy Aikman must have seen it because he was like, "No, we're not showing that." But kudos for that happening. Around the NFL, the Pat Mahomes deal, goodness.
Yeah, I need you to break that down for me.
Yeah, I'm not smart enough. Basically, he's getting more money quicker on that deal. They restructured it to pay him more in scale because, we talked about it the other day. He was like the 8th highest paid quarterback after what happened this summer. And so some of that money got pushed up.
Keeping him happy, I get it.
Sure. So my question is, we had a lot of discussion last week about teams that were 0-1 trying to avoid going 0-2. Mm-hmm. Some were able to avoid it. Bills, Pittsburgh. Oh, who else? There was one other I said yesterday. It was actually kind of a contender that was able to win. Oh, Kansas City.
Oh,
obviously,
right. Well, yeah.
because they lost the first week. Some others were not able to avoid that fate. So out of all the 0-2 teams, who do you give the best chance to make the playoffs?
You asking me right now to answer that? Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, I have to pick the Bengals because I put them in the Super Bowl, so I gotta start there. But seriously though, I think because we've seen them do it before. We've seen them overcome 0-2 starts with Burrow. And
last year.
Just last year, and it's something that I fail to remember. And I think it was the head coach who mentioned it in their post game presser or maybe one of the teammates said, we were without our starting quarterback the entire fall camp and preseason, pretty much. It's going to take them a little bit to get reacclimated. So that's where I got faith in Joe Burrow. I think that's one of them. And the other one, I think I'll go with the Chargers. They're starting 0-2. I think they got an offense good enough to get them to the playoffs. If you look at it, they have scored the most points in the AFC West, but they've given up 63. If they can figure out the defense, I think the offense is good enough. So those are the only two I put down. How about you?
I actually think those are the two best teams that are 0-2. Chargers, though, there's no chance I'm trusting Brandon Staley. I can't believe he's not fired already. Yeah. He has to be. You know how they had that running odds of first coach fired? He has to be leaps and bounds number one right now because, McCarthy is always a choice for that. The Dallas looks awesome. So I would be shocked if we can find the current one if Brandon Staley isn't number one. And that could be a place for a certain fella that's already in Southern California.
But if he leaves, I thought Norman was bad.
Listen, him and Justin Herbert.
No, he thought the fans of Norman were bad.
You think USC fans care?
Huh? Yeah, that's a good point.
They're probably all bandwagon Charger fans anyway.
That's probably true. They'll probably be really happy if he goes.
They'll just take off one hat and put on another.
Yeah.
But I think those are the two best teams. But unfortunately, Cincinnati is in one of the toughest divisions in football.
Yeah, that is a thing.
And then, excuse me, golly. And then the Chargers have lost 2 games within the conference, the AFC. So those tiebreak, you know what I mean? That they're really behind the 8
they're
ball.
in a hole. Yeah.
I went with Minnesota
See, I thought about it but
because of the division.
I get that, but I think the whole winning by 1 score
Yeah.
or less is catching up with them this year already.
And I didn't
I
have
think
them.
there's more to come.
I did not have them making the playoffs. Of all these 3, I only had Cincinnati in because I didn't have the Chargers in either.
But I get the division thing.
But that's
Chicago
why.
looks bad. Detroit, we'll see. That was a great win to start the year, but then they go and do what they did on Sunday. So, and then Green Bay's kind of a flip a coin too. You don't know what you're going to get out of Love.
Yeah.
So I get that. The division is still capable of winning.
Yeah, that's the only reason why. I feel like, the Chargers, here's the problem for the Chargers also. They've got that Chiefs problem. When you look at Mahomes' record against them, he wins 1-score games every single time.
Yeah.
They just can't beat him. And so, New England looks lifeless in what is a pretty good division. Houston, no chance. Denver, golly. They really should be
they're bad.
They should be 2-0 though. That's the whole thing. They should be 2-0.
They just find ways to lose, though.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Denver fans, especially after that incredible finish.
I know how you hit the Hail Mary. Now listen, if that wasn't pass interference on the 2-point play, then just take the rule out of the game. But still, you lose to the Raiders and the Commanders. As we all thought, NFC East looks like the best division in football. It's the only one without a team with 2 losses here in the
Isn't that
first
crazy
2
to say
weeks.
that AFC looks like the best conference in football, but the NFC East looks like the best
Yeah.
division in football?
And so, after 2 weeks, who's better than you thought?
I will be real honest with you. I was never I thought they would be good, but I didn't think they'd be this good, and that's Miami. I wasn't a big
Yeah,
believer.
you've never really been of Miami. I've always been more on the Miami bandwagon than you have, for sure.
But Tua's played great these first 2 games. They look like they were in control in that New England game from start to finish, even though New England fought tooth and nail to try to stay with them, but it looked like Miami would always have an answer. Miami looks good, and so they're better than I thought they'd be at 2-0. And a chance to win this division considering Rodgers is out. And we'll see what they do when they play Buffalo. But, yeah, Miami's my answer. How about you?
I have the AFC South.
The entire South?
Pretty much. Atlanta is way better than I would have ever thought at 2-0, even though Green Bay blew that game the other day. Obviously, Tampa is better than anybody thought.
You mean the NFC South?
That's what I meant. I'm
Okay.
sorry, NFC South. Yeah, NFC South. Yeah, Atlanta, New Orleans, Tampa, all 2-0. And then there's Carolina, of course, at 0-2. But they've also here's their deal. They've gotten beat by 2 division opponents, which is a bad deal for them. But it's not like they're losing to other teams. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe if they're outside the division, maybe they have a win. But the NFC South, which I thought was leaps and bounds the worst division,
That's a good one.
maybe not.
That's a good one. Narrowing it down to Tampa Bay, maybe. I didn't think they'd be 2-0
Well, Tampa and
at
Atlanta,
all.
either one of them.
Yeah.
Nobody thought they were going to be 2-0.
Hey, man, if I'm Baker Mayfield, I'm kicking down the door and saying, do what you got to do. Pay Mike Evans.
Oh, no doubt.
Mike Evans won Johnny Football the Heisman. I've been saying that ever since he won the Heisman. If you go back and watch that season, he would throw it up to Mike. Mike Evans was the best player in the field. And I firmly believe it. And we're seeing a little bit more of that now. You
He's
get the ball to him, and you got it. And Baker Mayfield knows it. He's smart enough to know it.
He's the only
Get it up to
guy,
Mike Evans.
I believe, in the history of the league to go over 1,000 yards receiving in his first 9 seasons.
He is, in my opinion, incredibly underrated wide receiver.
And he's definitely headed that way again this season after what he did on Sunday with, 170. Yeah, it's kind of – some people have the tight end as the safety valve. Baker has throw it up on the outside to Mike Evans as a safety valve. But and then I'll be honest with you, Jordan Love, his stats don't look great outside of one particular area. He's 56% completion and 198 yards a game. That's not great. But 6 touchdowns to no picks is. And they really should be 2-0. They'll be kicking themselves at the end of the season for that Atlanta game. on Sunday. But I've been really kind of impressed with him. And it's not the trend to sit guys like it used to be. But, man, it sure seems like it works in Green Bay to sit guys.
Draft and sit. Draft and stash.
Yeah, it sure seems like it works there.
Yep.
Maybe the other ones, the other places don't have they're a little bit more in a hurry or in a panic. But Green Bay seems to have the right philosophy, at least for them. And Jordan Love has been better than I thought with not turning the ball over. All right, what's your top 5 in the NFL this week?
I'll go 5 Ravens, 4 barely Philly, Cowboys 3. I give them the edge because I think they got the better defense. Kansas City 2, 49ers 1.
So no Miami.
Yeah, no, I just talked to but maybe it's still my distrust for Tua, but I think the Ravens are just a tick better. How about you?
Philly 5, Baltimore 4, Miami 3, Dallas 2, San Francisco 1. What's everybody else's top 5? Give it to us. 225-9698. How do you see the NFL through 2 weeks as far as the teams at the top? When we come back on this Paul Jones Drug Tuesday, hit a little high school sports. Football, as we get to district play in most of the classifications this week. Take a look at Oklahoman's rankings. This week's games also will reassess what we think about 4A1 and 4A as a whole. It's a fast pitch and fall baseball as well. Skinny on Sports coming back on a Paul Jones Drug Tuesday right after this.
Paul Jones Drug offers a free service that makes taking your daily medications safe and easy. It's called convenience packaging, meaning they can combine all your daily medications and put them in sealed, separate daily packages. This process replaces you from having to fill your daily medication dispenser. And as always, Paul Jones Drug prepares individual blister packaging for long-term care patients. With their drive-through window, curbside service, and free local delivery, it's just more reasons you should choose Paul Jones Drug, 809 North Main Street, Milk City.
I'm Rodney Skinner with Paul Jones Drug, and I promise we provide care you can trust.
The Skinny on Sports.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
Welcome back. Skinny on Sports, 98.1 FM, the sports animal. We've got some top 5s coming in. Our man Joe, Philly, Tampa. Oh, he's the Baker Mayfield love has infatuated Joe.
Is that in order from 1 to 5?
I think so. Or maybe 5 to 1. Did he do 5 to 1 or 1 to 5?
I would guess in that order it's 5 to 1.
I would too. Philly, Tampa, Kansas City, San Francisco, and Dallas. Drew's got what I have, except for he's flipped the last 2. Niners, Cowboys, Dolphins. He's got Eagles, Ravens, where I had Ravens, Eagles.
Cool.
What's everybody else got?
Saw Drew at the golf tournament.
Oh, really?
Wearing his Cowboy stuff. Dallas Cowboys stuff.
Huh. So that's what we got.
Very good. I like it. I like the input from the listeners.
225-9698. Give us your top 5 in the NFL. All right, Jared. Looking at the Oklahomans. Top 10s. Yeah, it's a good point Drew makes. Until Dallas beats San Francisco. I mean, that's coming up. It's the day after OU Texas, I believe. October 8th is that San Francisco-Dallas game.
Big weekend.
Oh, my gosh. Think about that. We got high school football Thursday, OSU K-State Friday, OU Texas Saturday, Dallas San Francisco Sunday, just for this region.
Man.
It's pretty good. Or at least Oak City has high school football.
Depending how the weekend goes, Monday could be really happy or really sad, depending how the outcomes go on all those games. Maybe
right now.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Right now. Would you take – who do you want to see win more, OU or Dallas?
Don't do that.
The choice has to be OU.
It's OU.
Because Dallas could get another chance in the playoffs to right those wrongs, which I guess OU could too in the Big 12 title game. Yeah. But with as bad as the conference is, that probably takes you out of playoff consideration.
Yeah. Right.
All right, so top 10 in 4A remained the exact same. Wagner 1, Poto 2, Blanchard 3. Tuttle suffered their first loss of the season to Guthrie. They stay at 4. Newcastle just obliterated Woodward. They're 5. Ada 6. Elks 7, Hilldale 8 after suffering their first loss, Clinton 9, and Weatherford at 2-2 is number 10. Here's my question statewide for 4A. Is it Wagner Poto on one level and everybody else trying to get there, or is it Wagner on one level and everybody else trying to get there?
I think it's Wagner and everybody else, to be quite honest. I really do. They were a year ahead last year by winning that title. Return a lot of talent. I think Poto might be better than what they were last year, but I think Wagner was already better than them. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they closed the gap, but I think it's everybody chasing Wagner. I think Poto could slip up against teams like Tuttle and others. So that's what I think. How about you?
Man, I've been on the Poto train this whole year as that next team. And maybe it is Wagner here, Poto on this next level by themselves, and then everybody else trying to get to Poto's level to then try to get to Wagner's level, if that makes sense. I'm really interested, really, really, really interested to see 4A2.
How that shakes out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we talked about Newcastle from the very beginning. After seeing them in the playoffs last year, knowing what they had coming back. Are Tuttle and Blanchard ahead of them because of the name Tuttle and Blanchard, or because they're better than Newcastle?
I think they've had, just because they've had the history of success over Newcastle,
right.
Both Blanchard and Tuttle.
Right.
You kind of you got to show it. You got to prove it.
Mm-hmm. And then what about Hera? Man, there's a bunch of people liking Hera all of a sudden.
Well, isn't that one of the top 10 games?
It is. Go ahead. Hera and Blanchard, yes.
Yeah.
It's the 10th game. So that's an interesting thing. Yeah, the top 10 this week. Number 1 was pretty easy to figure with Owasso and Union and 6A1. Some other games in 4A. There's 2 this week. Bethany at Tuttle. It's all 4A2, which I think you're going to see that throughout the season with the teams, with Tuttle, Blanchard, Newcastle, Bethany, and now if Hera joins that mix as well, if they're somewhat for real, then you know what I'm saying? There's going to be a game or two from that district in the top 10 every single week. But they're 10th. That game's hit Tuttle. Bethany at Tuttle is 6 this week around the state. Big one in Class A, District 1, with Fairview going to Hooker. It's number 1 against number 5. Number 1 Fairview, number 5 Hooker. So it's a huge game in that district that has Merritt and Sayre, Cordell. 4A1 itself. How do you? I guess Merritt, Sayre, Thomas. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry, Ferns Flat, not Cordell. They're in District 2. How do you reassess, or do you reassess what you thought coming into the season about 4A1 specifically versus what you think now after you've seen these teams play games in the non-district?
Well, I still think it's a 3-team race. That, my opinion, hasn't changed there between Elk City, Weatherford, and Clinton because of outcomes with the other ones. Woodward's in shambles. So is John Marshall. Chickasha, how they've lost. I mean, they've given up 64, given up 37. They beat a lowly and a Darko team. That's their only win. Cash, kind of the same boat, giving up 41 to a Tuttle team. Barely beating Altus 19-6. Giving up 55 to a really good Elgin team. I'll give them that. But the teams that Elk City and Weatherford and Clinton have played, that we've talked about this, they're more challenging than those others. So I think that makes it for those 3 to be on a collision course for a district title. So it doesn't change my opinion. I think it's those 3, the I-40 trio, and everybody else in 4A1.
Yeah, you got to give it up to Cash. I mean, playing road games at Tuttle and at Elgin in the non-district is pretty stout to go along with everybody. And really, I mean, even Chickasha, El Reno and Marlowe, those are 2, those aren't walkovers by any stretch.
No.
Obviously, Woodward played Bethany and Guthrie.
I think what's standing out to me is
how,
how they've lost.
Sure.
They were not even in those games, right? I mean, Clinton was in it with Heritage Hall, and Weatherford beat that El Reno team, and we all know about Elgin. I think our opinion of Elgin is pretty high after what they did last Friday night, that they're a good team. So there's no shame in losing that. But that, and then of course Elk City and who they've played, those are two teams that are in Canadian and Carl Albert that are probably going to run through the rest of the season.
Have chances to win state titles.
State titles. So that's why I think it's the top, those three and everybody else.
I do too. What order?
Oh, don't do that. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's what's crazy. I love that the scheduling works out where, Clinton or Elk City at Clinton and Clinton at Weatherford, but Weatherford at Elk City.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. I love that. It's not one team hosting the other two. So I don't know. I don't know.
And they all happen pretty rapid fire. Once we get Elk City at Clinton, then the next week Clinton goes to Weatherford, and then in 2 weeks Weatherford's here. And so by the time we get through week 8,
we're going to have a good idea.
Pretty good idea of where that's going to settle out.
But whoever wants to win this district has to win those 2 games. Clear. I mean, that goes without saying.
Well, and I also think you're going to – the other 4 games in district, you better get 15 district points.
Yeah, you better take care of business.
You better take care of those other games.
Yep.
Because I can absolutely see a world where everybody wins on their home field and you end up in a 3-way tie.
Yeah.
And at that point, then you got to take care of those other games as well. But I agree. I haven't seen anything in the non-district to make me believe that Cache, Chickasha, John Marshall, or Woodward is on the level of the 3 I-40 teams. I haven't seen it yet. Maybe we will. Maybe Chickasha goes and surprises Weatherford on Friday night, and all of a sudden we're kind of even reassessing from here. I don't believe that to be the case, but we'll see. But at least right now, Elk City, Weatherford, Chickasha, or Elk City, Weatherford, Clinton appear to be on a different level in 4A1 than anybody else, and the 3 appeared to be similar levels with each other. No one's done anything out of the ordinary to make you either put them above everybody or put them below everybody. You know what I mean? It's almost like the 3 quarterback race in Stillwater. You know what I mean? Nobody's really separated themselves, good or bad, between the others. So it's completely I'd still say you could draw one of the 3 out of a hat and feel comfortable with whichever one you drew.
Yep.
And I think we could sit here and make and have advantages for each and disadvantages for each. And so at that point, I guess you just ride with the defending champion? Do you ride with the team that's supposed to be most talented? Or do you ride with the team that has all the tradition? You have options. You know what I'm saying?
There's
kinds
no
of
wrong
options.
answer there.
You have options. So you're not going to do it?
No, are you?
You're not going to put them in order? Yes, I will.
Be my guest.
Elk City, Clinton, Weatherford.
Weatherford 3.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Do you have concern with how they performed against Elgin, or?
Just doesn't seem like they've gotten offense on track yet. Or maybe even figured out how to combat what everybody's doing to take Nixon out of the game. Now, Nick Jett has been awesome on the other side of him, or as a complimentary receiver, returning kicks. He's been fantastic, and maybe, but it feels like they just haven't gotten much run game going yet with Blackman. Chisholm ran it pretty well, and probably the difference in the game against El Reno was his legs and being able to move it on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seems like they haven't got it going. You know what I mean? At any point, whereas you can see obviously what Clinton's going to do. You know what they're going to do, but Collins has been a monster when he's played. And then with the Elks, they're kind of in a little bit of that same boat too, trying to figure out exactly what they want to be and find an identity. So maybe that should put Clinton at the top.
What's going to be interesting for me in 2 weeks when Elk City goes to Clinton is what the personnel looks like for Elk City. Is Garbarino going to be back in 100%? we've seen almost 2-3 variations of offense.
Yeah.
So,
and some of it out of necessity for injury, some of it because there's different options this year in the passing game that really maybe haven't been there.
Yeah.
Or weren't there last year anyway.
We're going to have another week and a half to break that matchup down. But also, line play. Elk City's line going up against Clinton's line. Who can get pressure? Who can get a push? So that's where I'm on the fence on all three of these teams. And, of course, Weatherford, too. They're talented as they can get, but they've seemed a little sluggish offensively.
Just a little bit. And who knows?
Which scratches my head. I'm like, are they holding back before they open it up? You have this all-world C.J. Nixon wide receiver. I don't know.
But sometimes you can try. Sometimes when you have a guy like that, you can try to force the issue to him, and maybe it just needs to open up naturally by using Jet, by using Scamahorn, getting run game going.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fascinating to see how it all shakes out. That's probably a homer pick on my part, but I've seen.
No, it's fine.
I've seen what the Elks could be, and truth be told, we haven't got to see them 100% yet.
That's what's kind of sticking out with me. I don't think we've seen them play good, real good, and of course we've seen them in these games against really, really good opponents. Out of all that, we mentioned last Friday night that despite the loss, they seem to play more cohesively together and as a team. When they could put all that together, this is a really, really good team. When will that be? Could it be the first district game?
Yeah, that's the thing. It has to be the first district game.
This bye week probably came at the most perfect time to put that all together and go.
Yeah, there's no doubt that bye week this week being off is a blessing to try to get guys healthy, to try to correct mistakes, to try to kind of get everything moving in the right direction. I thought Friday night was, even though in a massive loss, just watching that game and what the Elks have been missing, I thought you started to find it. I thought you started to see it against one of the best teams in Oklahoma. Let's move over to softball. Yesterday, the Elkettes of Elk City clinched second place in the district with a 3-0 win against Bethany. Essentially, I mean, they're gonna finish second place in the district after knocking off Bethany 3-0. So that means hosting a regional as team number 2 out of 4A1. We'll start to get those brackets coming up here probably in the next few days. Really awesome. I mean, you look back at the losses in the district that Elk City suffered: a walk-off to Woodward, a walk-off to Weatherford, and another blowing a 4-0 lead against Weatherford in the 6th. I mean, holding on to some of those leads is the difference between the Elkettes being the number 1 team and the number 2 team in 4A1, but still did enough to be able to host a regional.
I think this is the team that was there last year. This kind of mirrors like Elk City football when what was it, 2 years ago they made playoffs, got all the way semis and lost and graduated a lot, and then came back and did the same thing the next year. It feels like that with the softball team. They graduated a really good senior class, a lot of players off that really good, talented team last year, but yet here they are again. This is a great coaching job by Coach Murray and staff, and great play by those girls. So I'm anxious to get playoffs going, to be honest with you. We got
kind of see what it is.
Got a little bit to go, but just to see where it goes from there.
Aubrey Pogue surpassed 200 strikeouts this season as a sophomore. It's always, well, shouldn't, there's really there's no transfer portal in high school. So you go, man, 2 more years of her in the circle with Baker.
Yeah, she's not going to Nebraska. That's awesome.
So we'll
she might later, but you know what
we'll
I mean.
be getting a regional bracket here soon. Down in 2A, District 1, the Merritt Oilerettes are your District 1 champions. as they finish 4-2 ahead of Mangum, who was 3-3, Texoma 3-3, and then Hooker 2-4. So Merritt will host a regional, and I can actually tell you what that looks like because it starts Thursday out at Merritt. The Oilerettes have a bye in the first round. The other two teams are Hobart and Fairview. Hobart tied for the District 2 championship, but lost in the point differential tiebreaker to Hinton. So Hobart's the number 2 team out of 2A2. Fairview, the number 3 team out of 2A3. And I guess OCA didn't want to play because they would have been the other team coming out here out of District 4, the 4th place team out of 4. So we've got Merritt getting a bye, and then Hobart and Fairview will play at 2 o'clock on Thursday. Those games will go Thursday and then Friday. And that's one team. That's a one winner advancing to what will be the Super Regionals out of that regional. So really cool. Good job out there by the Oilerettes. Then in District 2, I mentioned Hobart coming to Merritt. You've also got Hinton as that district champ. They'll host a regional with Tonkawa, Mangum, and Meeker. Texoma out of that district, District 1, and Watonga out of District 2, they'll go to Morrison. And then also Sayre heads to Dale. Sayre and Hooker will go to Dale for their 2A fast pitch regional. And, of course, we've got fast pitch districts in A and B this week, Class A and Class B. That is all this week. Fall baseball district tournaments in Class A and Class B this week. Those brackets are impossible to find just because they don't even really post them until the regional tournaments. But there's a slew of teams that'll be on those fast pitch and fall baseball, and then once we get some results, we'll be able to tell you exactly who will be moving on to the regional tournaments. But there's some really, really good teams in both fall baseball and also fast pitch when you look around this area for sure. Feels like you've got Fort Cobb and Calumet on a collision course for everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Football, baseball, everything. It seems at the moment like those two are just going to be butting heads in Class B. They're 1 and 2, Fort Cobb 1, Calumet 2 in baseball, fall baseball rankings. And then we look at the fast pitch stuff with Class A, Arapahoe 4, Navajo 9, Shattuck 10, Cheyenne is 17th. And then down in Class B, Leedy 7, Mount View Gotebo 6, Arnett 8, Lakiba 10. So there's some teams that will also be in the mix there as well on the fast pitch diamond. It's good stuff. Very good. I can't believe it. Man, it seems like school just started, Jared. And we're already into playoffs.
I mean, it's going to be fall break before we know it.
No, I was just sitting here thinking we're going to be in the big house before we know it. It'll feel like 2 weeks ago we were here, and now we're in the big house. Hey, it's a Paul Jones Drug Tuesday. Thank you to Rodney and the gang at Paul Jones Drug, 809 North Main Street right here in Elk City. Paul Jones Drug is care you can trust. They're the oldest compounding pharmacy in Elk City. Free local delivery, drive-through pickup, curbside testing, and vaccinations. We'll continue to tell you all about Paul Jones Drug as we move along throughout the hour. When we come back, college football, what's real and what's not. I want you to rank the conferences and what's your top 10. I've also written down the ESPN FPI top 10 to kind of compare. And Drew's got an interesting question on the text line as well. Skinny on Sports right here on a Paul Jones Drug Tuesday.
Paul Jones Drug is Elk City's most experienced compounding pharmacy, meaning they can custom make your prescription medications to your doctor's specifications, safely and effectively providing you with exactly what you need. And for your convenience, Paul Jones Drug has a drive-through pickup window as well as curbside service for testing and vaccinations, and offers free local delivery. Just a couple reasons you should choose Paul Jones Drug, 809 North Main Street in Elk City.
I'm Rodney Skinner with Paul Jones Drug, and I promise we provide care you can trust.
Are you crying? Are you crying?
Skinny on Sports.
There's no crying in baseball.
Welcome back on this Paul Jones Drug Tuesday. Skinny on Sports, wrapping it up with some college football talk. Paul Jones Drug, convenience packaging. We talk about it every time. Every Tuesday, we talk about you not having to fill your pill caddy, not having to get your stuff right, not having to put it on the right day. Why would you mess with that hassle when you could just go to Paul Jones Drug and they'll do it for you? Jared, is it easier to open up about 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 different pill bottles, making sure you have the right dosage for the right day? Or is it easier just to go rip open a package that Paul Jones Drug has done all that for you?
Just rip it open.
It's that easy.
Just rip it open.
It's much more simple.
The hardest part is just knowing what day it is, right? What day is today? Oh, it's Monday. Where's my Monday packet?
And it even it says it for you.
There you go.
It's a simple deal, that convenience packaging at Paul Jones Drug. Also, durable medical equipment, which is your walkers, canes, crutches, your wraps, your braces. Most insurances are accepted. And also, it's not just the medical stuff. Paul Jones Drug has great gifts and greeting cards available as well. 809 North Main, Paul Jones Drug is care you can trust. Thank you to Rodney Skinner and all the gang down at Paul Jones Drug. Jared, question on the text line. Drew has asked us. Where'd it go? There we go. Which 0-2 team in the NFL is Caleb Williams eyeing after week 2? Not which team is eyeing Caleb Williams, but which team is Caleb eyeing? When you think about what his dad said a couple of weeks ago with the way the NFL draft is all messed up and going to a bad team. So of all the 0-2 teams right now.
Because that's been since the dawn of time.
Yes.
That's how that's worked, but let's complain about it.
The Mannings did it. They forced a trade for Eli.
Yeah, they did.
John Elway did it. Which 0-2 team do you think Caleb Williams is eyeing after 2 weeks?
Basically, what team should he want to be on?
Yes.
I would say New England, with a chance to be coached by Belichick and.
Not me.
Who do you say?
Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota.
Jefferson, Hawkinson, Addison, already there. Team that made the playoffs last year. Kevin O'Connor, I think, is a good offensive coach.
Yeah, that's one.
Now, I also think that's completely unrealistic to believe that Minnesota is going to have the number 1 pick, especially considering I literally just said they had the best chance to make the playoffs at 0-2. But as far as the question was, as far as the 0-2 teams, who would he be eyeing? I think has to be Minnesota, right? With the weapons that are around him already in place.
I guess I went with more realistic who
could actually do it.
But I don't know. I mean, that's even a stretch saying New England could have the number 1 pick.
Yeah, I think you're looking
there's
at
some wins there.
You're looking at Cardinals, Panthers, Bears, Texans as most likely options in my mind.
Right.
Would either the Panthers or the Texans entertain that?
I would almost think it would be dumb to not entertain it.
So you're going to take the number 1 pick back-to-back years on a quarterback if you're Carolina.
Could you get some assets out of trading them? Not Williams, but your last year number 1 pick.
Less than what you could trade that number 1 pick for.
Oh, that's true. I guess that really tells you how much they believe in the guy they got.
I actually think C.J. Stroud's been pretty good so far. He's been the best rookie quarterback by far. Throwing it now, if you want to talk about Anthony Richardson, that poor guy is going to have weekly concussions because all he can do is run, and they just tee off on him. But Stroud has been pretty decent, especially considering what he looked like in the preseason, where he had that deer in headlights. Oh my gosh, it's another Ohio State quarterback out there. He's been pretty decent so far this year. 63%, over 300 yards a game, 2 touchdowns, no picks. There's no shame in that with a team that is just horrible. Now, Drew makes a great point. Denver being 0-2, do you know who has their first-round pick?
Seattle.
And here's the problem for Houston. Arizona, they're not even in this mix. They don't count because they traded Arizona their first rounder to get Anderson and Stroud in the draft last year. So they don't have that choice to make if it comes to it because they don't even have their pick. Arizona might have the first and second pick in the draft. I wonder if that's ever happened. 1 and 2. There's been times where there's top 5 picks, 2 top 5s. I know Cleveland did it with Baker and Denzel Ward.
Yeah.
2 top 5 picks. I wonder if there's ever been the 1 and the 2. Anyhow, that's something to watch. Who does Caleb want to go to? All right, Jared, what's real and what's not in the Big 12 or across college football so far as we kind of conclude non-conference play and head into conference games?
Well, I'll stay more in the Big 12. I think Longhorns, it's real. They are playoff contenders. I'll get on board with that. Contenders. Listen to my words. They are playoff contenders. I also think the Sooners are conference title contenders. And that's as far as it'll go. And what's not real, TCU will contend again. I don't think that's real. So my 2 reals are OU and Longhorns. Longhorns playoff contenders. Sooners are conference title contenders. Not real, TCU. They're not real. How about you?
Big 12 stinks. That's real.
Well, yeah. You can smell that.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
The Big 12 is terrible. I mean, I'm not going out on any limb for OU or Texas yet because I'm not sure how good Alabama is.
See, I said that when
it's
that
a
happened.
It's a heck of a win. Listen, I'm not downgrading the win, but as far as I need to see more from both of those teams. Is that as big a win as we thought? I don't know. And here's the thing.
I'm going to Jim Traber and say I'm going to give it up to myself. That's what I said as soon as that game happened. It was, how good is Alabama? I wanted to see more. And then what happened at South Florida?
South
Florida gives
That's
me
the
pause.
one.
And then it's 10-10 going into the fourth quarter in Austin last week.
I mean, Texas has played 12 quarters, and about 5 or 6 of them have been pretty crappy. If you think about the first half against Rice and essentially the entirety of the Wyoming game. But they did go and win in Tuscaloosa. I just don't know. I'm not going to call them being one of the playoff teams real yet, and I'm not taking any. Oklahoma's looked awesome, but we'll see.
The reason I say Longhorns are playoff contenders because the Big 12 stinks.
Well, and because they have the win over Alabama. It almost doesn't even matter how good Alabama really is. That's going to carry a lot of clout at the end of the day. Around the country, I'll tell you what's real. Pac-12 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That's for real. A bunch of them. I actually think the SEC struggles is real as well. For the inverse reason. Who the heck is a good quarterback in the SEC? Jaden Daniels at LSU?
Jackson Dart
at Ole Miss?
About to find out this weekend.
Wegman. Right? Is Wegman, I mean, even though they got beat down by Miami, that was a pretty amazing performance by him to stand in there and just get drilled over and over and over and make as many plays as he did. But the SEC struggles, I think, are a little bit real because of quarterback. And here's another thing that's real. The portal and the NIL are changing the sport for everyone, and everyone in a totally different way. And I still don't think we're sure how that's going to end up, what that change ends up being, right? Mm-hmm. But it's phenomenal to watch.
You know, it's crazy. We're seeing those who benefit and those who absolutely are hurting because of it.
You know, I heard this conversation when I was heading home
that
yesterday.
That line is very visible now.
The developmental programs, when you think about the programs that have done more with less, I think it hurts them as much as anybody. K-State, OSU, just in this conference.
Yeah.
The ones that they're recruited at a little bit of a lower level, but then turn those players into what the higher recruited players should have been. Mm-hmm. Can they keep those guys? OSU sucks is real. I got that on a text.
Oh, wow. Well, that's from a text, not from us. It's from a text.
It's just, I think that's the feeling across the fan base right now in Stillwater.
Yep.
Rank the conferences for me.
I will go number 1, Pac-10. Number 2, Big 10. Number 3, ACC. SEC, Big 12.
That's exactly how I did it.
Okay.
I went ACC over SEC because they beat them. I think there was like 6 or 7 games between those two conferences, and the ACC won almost all of them.
Yep.
So, Big 12 is obviously last. Pac-12 to me is obviously first right now. I think the Big is next.
I say Pac-10. I meant
that's fine.
Old habits die hard.
Pac-2 for all that.
Tupac.
It is what it is. What's your top 10?
I'll go 10-1. Oregon, Washington, Penn State. This is where I put Texas, followed by Notre Dame, Ohio State. Great game this weekend, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, Florida State, USC at 3, Michigan 2, Georgia 1.
Interesting. Teams I had just outside: Utah, Oregon, OU, Oregon State. I actually have a one-loss team in the top 10. The reports of the LSU Tigers' demise were greatly exaggerated. I've got them 10, Penn State 9, Washington 8, USC 7, Notre Dame 6. I really was going to put them 5 and Ohio State flip-flop, but I went ahead and wrote it down that way. Notre Dame 6, Ohio State 5, Horns 4, Florida State 3, Michigan 2, Georgia 1. And I really wanted to put somebody else at the top. And if Florida State wouldn't have almost gagged that game against Boston College, I probably would have. Or if Texas would have came out and acted like grown-ups and whipped Wyoming like they should have, I would have. You know, because of the wins that they've gotten. And Georgia's struggling against South Carolina. But here's the deal. Who hasn't? Can you find USC? USC gave up a boatload of points in that first game to San Jose State, but there wasn't a struggle. No. Maybe Notre Dame should be number 1. They haven't struggled against anybody. They've just whipped everybody's tail. And if they win against, I'm going to tell you right now, if they beat Ohio State, they will be my number 1 next week. Period. End of story.
Yep.
I skipped not real. What's not real around the country?
Man, I focus more on the big. What do you got?
I've got Colorado as a contender. That's not real.
Oh, no.
They're not. Here's one that this goes against probably most 90% of the people around the country. You know what I don't think is real? Clemson's demise.
You say I about said Alabama's.
I don't think Clemson's demise is real. I think you're about to find out on Saturday with FSU coming to town. And then one of those Big Ten East teams, one of them's not real, but I don't know who yet. I would lean Ohio State or Penn State because Michigan has J.J. McCarthy at quarterback. I would lean at one of those. One of them's not going to be it. And it may just be Ohio State. We may just find that out on Saturday. And a lot of it's quarterback play. Now, did you see the FPI?
No.
ESPN's FPI this week?
No.
Top 10? Okay, so we both had similar top 10s. The FPI is a little bit different than us as far as where they put them. Number 10, Florida State. Number 9, LSU. Number 8, Oregon. Number 7, Texas. Number 6, Penn State. Number 5, USC. Number 4, Alabama. Number 3, Georgia. Number 2, Oklahoma. And number 1, Ohio State. ESPN's FPI Top 10. Interesting what the computer algorithm comes up with versus what the human eyes and biases, preconceived notions of the season come up with. Not that one is more right than the other. I thought it was interesting how much different it was as far as the order than either of us would have had.
Yeah.
And, I mean, how long has it been? And maybe you considered it. But I'm going to be honest with you. When I was writing down my top 10, I literally never considered Alabama being in it.
No, I did not because of
the loss
and their performance last week. Same reason I'd put Texas at 7 because of their performance. And maybe I should have dropped Florida State too.
Yeah. But
right?
everybody else has
that.
It's
the eye test thing. You know, who's undefeated, who's looked good doing it, you know, who looks the real deal and who's not. And I'm still in a holding pattern with Texas, to be quite honest with you.
Who's the best team in the SEC?
In the SEC? I think that's easy. It's Georgia.
I don't.
Who do you think it is?
LSU. And I know I was beating the Mississippi State bandwagon last week about how that could be a slip-up spot. I think LSU's the best team in the SEC. The quarterback, the defense, I do not trust Carson Beck as far as I can throw him at Georgia. I just don't. And maybe he proves to be Stetson Bennett 2.0. Maybe he proves to be better, whatever. But right now, if those two, of course, it's not a neutral field because it's in Atlanta. But if they played in anywhere else, I guess he couldn't play in he couldn't play in New Orleans either because that wouldn't be a neutral field. I think what we saw, everyone is so their judgment, and mine was too, is so clouded by what we saw in the second half of that game against Florida State that we're not realizing just how good LSU is.
Yep. There's a lot of hype about them with the way they ended last year, and it doesn't appear like it's going to take them half a season to get going again this year.
No, just one bad quarter almost.
Against a really good team. A good team.
I would take, for me, I think LSU's the best in the SEC right now. That's just me.
Okay.
All right, that'll do it. Paul Jones Drug Tuesday has been wrapped up. Thank you to Rodney and all the gang at Paul Jones Drug Care you can trust. 809 North Main, Paul Jones Drug. 225-2121 if you want to give them a ring tomorrow. Kind of start to look ahead at the college football weekend. It is by far the best one so far. Ranked matchups all over the slate. Everybody have a great Tuesday. We'll be back tomorrow.
You've been listening to the Skinny on Sports podcast with Aaron Cow. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to get alerts of when the latest podcast is available. Thanks for listening.